Hi everyone, welcome back to my channel. My name's Emily if you're new. Today I want to kind of try something new with my videos. I'm going to be sharing my personal testimony of finding community kind of in the church post high school graduation. And I feel like I have kind of an interesting perspective and story towards that because of certain things that were happening in my life and in my church during that time. So stay tuned to hear my story and some things that I learned along the way. I feel like a lot of people have like a niche on their channel, and that's what helps channels be successful and grow. Like you find what you're good at and you kind of do that thing. And I made a video, I don't know if I'm gonna post it, but it was like a funny reacting to old Facebook statuses with my friend. And I realized that like funny isn't my thing on like YouTube. I'm much more interested and like good at, I think, talking about more serious topics, maybe story times, testimonies, things that the Lord's teaching me kind of stuff. So I think that that's the direction that we're gonna go with this channel. But anyways, basically when I got out of high school, I was starting a new relationship and I'd never been in a relationship before. Me and him were just like each other's all the time, best friends kind of things. I didn't really do a lot of stuff with other people, and he became my source of friendship and relationship after graduation. I wasn't trying to pursue community at all, and I realized that when you're in high school, you see the same people every day basically, or at least if you have church friends, you see them at church every week. Youth, Wednesday night, Sunday morning, whenever you go to church, you see those same people routinely, and you don't have to really try for connection with them. You just kind of like naturally see each other, you reconnect, you do stuff together, and it kind of happens naturally with how your life is laid out at that time in your life, and you don't really have to try for it. But when I got into college, I realized that if you want to connect with people, you have to make it intentional. And I know intentionality is kind of an overused word right now, but it's because it's good and it's important and true. You have to make a plan with people, and if they're not pursuing your friendship, you have to pursue their friendship. It just makes it a little bit more difficult, or you just have to work at it a little bit harder. It's kind of a beautiful thing actually, because you have to show that you want to see them because you love them and you want to connect with them because they're important to you, and not just because they're the people you run into on a daily basis. So I was kind of figuring this out as it went, but I didn't really have to dig into that because I was in this relationship and we did stuff together all the time, and I didn't really have to try for it. So when the relationship that I was in ended at the end of my first semester of college, so it was about 6 months long, it happened right before Thanksgiving, and so I was just kind of hurting and dealing with heartbreak, and I never dealt with heartbreak before. The rest of that year I was just heartbroken, and that's all I was really focused on, and it was the holidays. It's pretty awful. But it was the holidays, so like there wasn't a lot of opportunity to connect with new people. So that January, I kind of subconsciously decided I've got to press in for community like any possible place that I can, because I'm lonely and I'm broken and I can't just sit in my bed and be sad all the time. And I realized during that time that all the people that I was close with in high school, my school friends, my church friends, they'd either moved away for school or missions work, or they were just super busy with like school and what was required of them for school and working. And some people just kind of, we had a falling out and we weren't really close anymore. And so I was like, oh snap, I literally have like almost nobody to connect with. Like this is really bad. And apart from that, I was already in the loneliest season of my whole life. But as I went to all of these groups, and I went to a lot of groups. One week I think I went to a different group every single night of the week. Mondays I went to a young adults group at not my church, but a different church. I'll talk more about that in a second. Tuesday, I was going to a every other week Bible study through my church. And then Wednesday, I watched kids at a church. And Thursday, I went to this college group at my school. That week, I didn't go every week, but that particular week, I had these things lined up. And I think that Friday night, I went to a young adults thing at a friend's house, trying to connect. Like I was trying to connect everywhere. It was kind of interesting because if you know me, I'm not the kind of person to just show up to things not knowing anyone at all. Like that's actually one of the hardest things for me, because I'm really introverted and I like to go deep with people, but I don't know how to go deep with people right away because it could like scare them off. And so it's just really hard for me to show up and like find a person and just start talking to them. Like that was not a normal thing for me, but it was like a lifeline. I had to connect with people. So I was going to all of these things with the intention of being filled up by Jesus, first of all, but also filled up by community, because I know that community is a good thing. You can go to a lot of sources to help you get through hard times, and I'll talk about this more later, but I think that it's not a bad thing to go to community to fill you up when you're broken. That seems like a really healthy thing to do, so that's what I did. So at this point, all of that happened over 2 years ago, but how I was feeling at the time, remember, this was the loneliest season of my life. This was me being like out of high school, but like I didn't transition out of high school in the church the way that most people probably would. My church didn't have a young adults group at the time, which we'll talk more about in a second. Completely lonely. Where do I fit in the body of Christ? Who are my people? I have no people. It was super, super lonely. So at the time, I didn't see anything paying off. I was showing up and being faithful to like show up even if I didn't really feel like I was making connections with anybody. I just kept telling myself, if you keep showing up, something as good is going to happen. And I wasn't seeing it at the time. Now I do, but at the time I didn't see anything beneficial coming out of just continuing to show up. And like, people tell me if you show up, something good happens, and I still feel just as lonely and broken as I did at the beginning of this. And just to be super honest with anybody watching this, like, I really didn't like going to church during this time, because I would show up, I would sit by myself, I would pretty much sit next to somebody different every single time I went to church, because I didn't have those friends in that group of people, or the people that I knew where they sat every week and I could just go sit with them. I legitimately just showed up, went to service, shook hands with the person next to me, and then I would leave. I wouldn't really connect with anybody at church, and I almost like wanted to stop going. But the thing is, like, I felt like, okay, this is my church, this is my people. Like, they don't feel like my people right now, but they are, and this is where I'm supposed to be. So that's really what kept me going really week to week, was just believing, okay, God, I have peace about being here. Like, I know this is where I'm supposed to be. It just doesn't feel like anything is coming out of it good at this time. Like I said before, my church didn't have a young adults group at this time. A little background on my church is it started 12 years ago now, 10 years ago at that point. So it was still developing, it was still growing, new things were still coming out of it, and they still are. They had a youth group start when they felt like it's time, we have people to lead it, we need it. And different groups, like a women's group, would come up when they were like, it's time, we have a vision for this, we know who's going to lead it, we're going to do it. They had a mom's group start when they were like, it's the time, we have people that are ready to carry it out and fulfill it. So the way that my church operates is they don't just say, oh, we have a bunch of young adults, we need to get something together and have a young adults group. They're really focused on like what God says and who is raised up to lead these things, and they don't just have them just because there's a need. They're like, okay, there's a need for this, let's pray into it and see what God says to us about this, and what God says is the right people to lead this. We know we need it, but we're gonna wait on him. Okay, I changed my position a little bit because my legs were falling asleep because I was sitting on them. So hopefully the lighting and everything doesn't bother you. It didn't change too much. So yeah, my church did not have a young adults group, and I feel like having that at that time in my life would have made it a lot easier to connect with people. But at the same time, the journey that the Lord took me on, because we didn't have that, I couldn't just take the easy way out and show up to this group and get connected that way. Like, I had to trust God, trust the process, really see it through to completion with the Lord. It was kind of like taking the long way around instead of taking a shortcut. And for me, that was actually the most amazing and beneficial thing that could have happened. So I'm really thankful for that. I went to a young adults group at a different church. So I would go to this group, and it was really good for that season of my life. And they would have young adults help lead worship, and they would have young adults lead the little discussion groups after the service. They would have young adults be greeters and help with the things that were going on at the church. And I remember thinking to myself, if this was my church's young adults group, I would be doing that. I would be leading the Bible study after service. I would be leading worship. I would be greeting people at the door and welcoming them in. But because it it was like not my tribe. Like I felt almost like, I don't know if this is the right word, but I kind of felt like I was betraying my people if I had done that. Like it would have been betraying my people, because I knew that my church was my tribe. Like that's what we say at my church. Like if this isn't the tribe for you, find a tribe that is you, but this is our tribe. I knew that that was my place that I was supposed to be, and this church, even though it was great and what they were doing was great, that wasn't where I was supposed to get connected at. But I kept telling myself, wait till we have this, wait till we have a young adults group at our church, because that'll actually be my people and not like, if you have a best friend, maybe when you're a little bit younger, like if you're in middle school or high school, you have a best friend and you get really close with their family and you spend a lot of time with their family and you like are there for holidays and birthdays and you kind of feel like you're part of the family. But at the end of the day, you're not. Like that's not your family. You can be really close with them and connect to them and you can admire what they do and like their traditions and things. But at the end of the day, that's not your family. There's a special connection when it is your people and your family. And that just wasn't present for me at that church. So while it was good, it wasn't it for me. And I knew that in my heart. Basically, I could only go so deep with those people because they weren't my tribe. Now, about a year after pressing in everywhere that I possibly could and not seeing a whole lot of result from that at the time, I got invited to this Bible study, but it's more like a discipleship group through my church. The couple that was leading it, now they're like my family. They're like my best friends. They kind of, it was like an invite-based thing. They would pray and they would say, Lord, who do you think that we should have in this group for this semester? And they actually thought of my name, or like God told them my name. And I didn't really know them at all. I mean, I knew of them, but I had never talked to them before. And so I went to their house, to this group, and I was really excited because I was like, maybe this is the thing. Like, this isn't a young adults group necessarily, but like maybe this is the place where I finally get connected and plugged in, and this is where it's just gonna all make sense. So I showed up to their group. I didn't really know them, but I was excited. The first night was kind of a, this is our vision for the group. This is what we plan to do. And then the next week, I kind of stuck around until everybody had left, and I was like, I told them, I don't know what it is, I just don't really feel like leaving yet. And I was like, I know this is really weird because I don't know you guys, and knowing myself, like it's really weird for me to intentionally stay when there's nobody that I know to talk to and I have to connect with new people. That's not something that comes naturally for me. It was actually quite supernatural, but it felt like the natural thing to do in the moment. Does that make sense? I was like, guys, I don't know what it is, but I just kind of want to stay and hang out. And they were like, that's cool, that like we're gonna be up, you don't have to leave yet if you don't want to leave. And so I ended up staying, I don't know how long it was, at least an hour, probably 2 hours after everybody left. I just asked them their testimonies, I told them my testimony. I just kind of, it was like get to know you, like super speed. It just felt like family. They listened to me and I wasn't annoying to them. Does that make sense? People that actually want to connect with you, and they're doing it right now, like you're connecting with them, and it wasn't uncomfortable, it wasn't weird, it was just right. And I was like, oh, this is what connection actually is. So being a part of this group, meeting these people, this was the turning point. Like this was where everything changed for me. And there's two facets to this testimony. There's like two paths. Like I could split and talk about what the Lord really did in my heart and what I learned in this group, or I could talk about the community aspect of it. And I'll probably make another video at some point talking about the avenue of what the Lord did in my heart, but this one is the community aspect. So long story short, I started to stay late every single week, and that was normal. And it was like kind of, the party starts after Lighthouse. It was called Lighthouse. It was kind of like the party started afterwards. So I wasn't the only one who started to stay late. Another person stayed late, and we all kind of just talked and hung out and stuff. That was kind of more exciting than even the group by itself. That was last year, January to June, or February to June or something. And then in the fall last year, I couldn't be part of it because I had a class that night. And this year in the winter, or this past semester, I guess, January to May, sorry, my brain is like not there. This past semester, the first part of the year, I was in it again. I have a friend that I reconnected with, Jules actually, who was in my Facebook reactions video. We reconnected, and so she would stay late too, and there was just kind of a group of us that started to stay late, and we just kind of became the core group. That was just really fun. We started to have game nights together and just really connecting, and like really for the first time feeling like these are my people, like this is my group of people. It was really good. So with all of that being said, I started to feel finally that I was connected with people at church. That's like changed everything for me. Not only these people being my friends, and it's not like those are my only people at the church, but like recognizing that if you're at this church, it's because you want to be in a family environment. Like that's what it really is. And if you don't feel like it's family, just stay a little bit longer and it'll hit you. Once I realized that everybody here is here for family, you don't even have to know everybody who shows up on a weekly basis to recognize their family. I can just say hi to you even if we've never talked before because you're family. Like, I don't know, I just had revelation of this, and like, I'm not a nobody in the body. People know who I am, and not in a prideful way, but like, people know my face. I've been around here for 5 years and I know their faces, and we're all in family together. All of that started a year ago. Meeting this couple and being in their home and being friends with people who would stay afterwards and be the core group. That was started about a year ago. Fast forward to right now, August 2020. We are launching our young adults group this Friday night. Today is Wednesday the 19th, and we're launching it on Friday the 21st. And the leaders are actually the couple that I connected with through their Bible study or discipleship group. And the other couple that's leading it is one of my youth pastors and his wife. So it's just really exciting, like how long time coming this is, but also that if we had had this group when I first graduated from high school, like the Lord wanted to, I mean, maybe he could have, it would have looked a lot different, but he wouldn't have taken me on the same journey that he has because we didn't have this group when I graduated. Now that I am connected with people and I know the leaders really well, and I'll feel comfortable already at this group because I know people already and I'm connected, I'm so excited about this. I can see people coming in that maybe are where I was, like feeling really lonely and where do I fit, and I don't know these people, like walk in the door and I can say, hey, I'm Emily, what's your name, or how long have you come here, or you know, make them feel comfortable and seen and known and valued, because ultimately I think that's what we all really want. It's what we need, is to be seen and be recognized, and like for people to show that they care about us and they know our name. When you really get to know someone, then you can encourage them in what they're passionate about. There's so many facets to it, but like, it's also not just about me. Like, okay, cool, I'm connected, like, good for me, like I don't feel alone anymore. But there's also kind of a aspect of responsibility that comes with that. Once you feel secure and you are connected with people, that you actually get to bring other people into it, and it's kind of a responsibility to see the people that are kind of lonely and off by themselves and like not really sure who to go talk to or how to, and bring them into what you now understand and know, and do the same thing that other people did for me. So I've kind of come to see that at this point, I don't need a young adults group. A couple of years ago, I was like, we need a young adults group at our church. Like, I dealt with some offense in my heart because we didn't have one, and I'm like, how can you guys not see that this is something that we need and you're not doing it for us? There was a lot of offense that I've now dealt with the Lord, and he's healed my heart. But it was like, I don't need this anymore, but I do want it, and I'm really excited for it. But this isn't where I'm going to get my cup filled up, because my cup is already filled up. And something that I learned is that there is a way for your cup to be filled up by just Jesus and not anything else. Like I said earlier, I don't think it's wrong to go to community to help fill you up and to help you feel connected and loved. That's not a bad thing at all. Like, that's totally biblical to do life with people. But I realized that I can just get that from Jesus and only Jesus. He's all I need. So once I have that and I trust him, everything is good with Jesus himself, then I have a full cup to pour out to other people, and everything else that I get to experience is just an extra level of blessing. Like, this group is just another level of blessing in my life. It's not something that I need. It's not something that I can't live without, but it is something that I get to enjoy, and I get to show up and serve, and man, I'm just so excited about it. I've just come to learn and understand the beauty of process, and that's something that you can't skip and you can't expedite the process. Like, you just kind of have to submit to, okay, the Lord is teaching me something, the Lord is healing my heart, and it's not going to happen overnight, but it will have fruit in the future. And so ultimately for this testimony, it's just trusting the Father and knowing that community is for us and it is His will for us, but sometimes He has to do a deep work in us first. And you can't really be in a relationship with people if you're not filled up, because you'll just suck all the life out of them. That's really not healthy, and that's not what the Lord wants for us. So it's not that we have to be fixed up completely and like get all our crap together before we can have people to do life with. But for me, that was kind of part of it. Like, the Lord was really doing something in my life at the time, and I couldn't fully enjoy and get the fullest out of community without connecting with the Lord first. So the kind of takeaways for this testimony and what I've learned is, first of all, keep showing up even if you don't see the fruit of it, because it will pay off. It's better to show up even when you feel like you're not getting anywhere than to just stay at home by yourself and you're never gonna get anywhere or meet any friends that way. Keep showing up. If you don't know how to talk to people, that's okay. I didn't know how to talk to people. I'm still not completely sure that I'm great at it, but it doesn't matter. That'll lead into another point, which is it will be a little bit uncomfortable to connect with people and to talk with people, but ultimately it's worth it. And they probably want to connect just as much as you do, and people are just waiting for someone else to make the first move, or for someone else to be the more confident one, or whatever it may be. Everybody wants it and nobody knows how to get it, so we just kind of don't do it. And I think that that's a hard thing, but it's okay to be the person that is a little bit uncomfortable and has to kind of step out and say, hey, what's your name, or whatever it is. So the last thing that I learned through this process is, I kind of touched on this earlier, but it's people ultimately really just want to be seen and known and valued. And I recognize this because all of these people, my youth pastors, my youth leaders, these people that led the Bible study I was in, I always walked away from being with them feeling so filled up and so loved and cared about. Like, they would just listen to me and not try to rush through it, or not try to interject their story or who they were or whatever. Like, not try to make it about them, but to make it about making me feel loved and known. And I think that that's really special and something that is hard to learn, and I'm still learning it, to not bulldoze over people and just talk about yourself, because that doesn't help anyone. And community isn't just about ourselves and making ourselves feel good and connected and not alone, but it's also about other people that we come into contact with and bringing them in and making them feel known and loved. That's something to learn, but it's really cool to see how amazing it is when you can, I don't know, love people, basically. Just to take time and give people your time. That's one of the most amazing things you can do for people, especially if they're a quality time person, which I find that a lot of my friends are quality time people, which is amazing. Just giving people your time and valuing them and listening to their heart, listening to their story and what they're passionate about and what their dreams are, because then you can cheer them on and encourage them in that, and encourage them to pursue what the Lord has for them in their life. And I don't think there's anything more amazing that you can take away from this story than that. Like I said, I'm still learning it, and it is hard. It's really hard, because you want people to know who you are as much as you want to know them, and even more so because we're selfish people. And especially me, being a 4 on the Enneagram, I want people to know me and I want to feel known. So it's like, okay, we're not going to be selfish, we're going to make other people feel known and loved, and that's going to lead to much better things in the long run. Yeah, so that's my story with finding community and processing through post-high school life in the church. And I hope that you enjoyed it. I hope that it wasn't way too long, because I talk a lot. So I hope that you learned something, that it touched your heart in some way. And if it did, leave a comment down below and subscribe to my channel, because I'm going to be trying to do more videos that are more sit down, serious topics about Jesus and friendship, and hopefully sometime soon relationships. But just know that everybody wants to connect as much as you probably do, and you just have to be the person to get up and say, we're gonna do this, and I'm not gonna do life alone, because that's not God's will for us. Anyway, in total, I hope that you enjoyed that and that you have a wonderful day. Bye.